Everybody, I am Sonic Sons. This is June 8th, 2007, and this video is a response to the most recent NoobTube podcast, episodes 46, Crush, Mortal Kombat, and Mario Party. There are a bunch of things to comment on this one about games I haven't actually played yet. On the Mario Party front, I must note that I'm a Mario Party connoisseur, and I've owned all 7 previous to this, mainly because relatives figure, oh, we'll just get him this for Christmas. You know, it's a family game. The whole family can play it. But the thing I was more interested in talking about was when you talked about the working conditions for game developers. And this is an issue near and dear to my heart because, like many other people, I want to design video games, among other things. But I've read into this stuff, and you're right, Yuzo, that when you read into it, you realize that they have really crappy conditions. It's just sad because, you know, everyone who goes into this, and they've actually pulled this to make sure, yes, it's true that everyone who goes into the game industry goes into it because they really love games, you know, and they figure this would be amazing, I love what I'm doing, and then practically every project goes behind schedule and over budget, and everyone's working crazy hours at the last minute, or like practically throughout the whole time. There was a famous letter from EA spouse, she called herself, about how her husband was being horribly mistreated. Just don't work at EA. Okay? All the things are bad, but EA is apparently particularly bad, or at least it was at the time they wrote this. You know, wasn't getting any overtime pay, wasn't getting any like time compensation. Some companies will do that. If you have to work overtime, then they'll like give you more vacation days once the project is over. No, wasn't getting that. You know, and he was starting to feel like physical problems, you know? He was starting to go to the doctor and stuff, and the doctor says you gotta work less. He's like, I can't work less, because if I work any less than this, I'll get fired, you know? And the managers would say things like, okay, we're gonna do a pre-crunch time now, so that when real crunch time comes around, it won't be so bad. And so they go through, like, their pre-crunch time, and then, like, real crunch time comes around, and it's just as bad, and they're working, like, 70 hours a week. Which is scary. Like, ugh. I hate stress and pressure and stuff, and yet I love video games, and it puts me in a weird thing. What I do for myself, I'd probably end up starting like my own company or something, or if I could find one of the rare companies that's just really nice to its employees, you know? You gotta find a way to do it at your own pace and everything. The IGDA, International Gamers Developers Association, posted up a white paper on this, which I found very interesting. Apparently, they've done all these scientific studies, and this is like for practically every industry, right? And long-term, and here you define long-term as 8 weeks in a row or longer, right? Long-term, if you work 60 hours a week, you will accomplish just as much as if you had worked 40 hours a week. Long-term, if you work 80 hours a week, you will actually accomplish less than had you worked 40 hours a week, because you get so flipping tired, you know? You don't have any time to recuperate, and you just going at it, and, you know, you make more mistakes. You have to make up for these mistakes, and developers don't get this. Like, first off, there's, like, the humanitarian aspect of, please, don't be cruel to your workers, you know? And secondly, there's just the sheer money-making aspect. If you want to get more work done, don't work people more than 40 hours a week, right? That is the most efficient time, right about at 40 hours. And maybe at 50 hours a week, you'd like get a little more done overall. Certainly by 60, though, 60 is the same thing as 40. If developers would get that, that'd be great. And if they could foster innovation, maybe, that'd be great. Here's another thing. How about we finish the games before we release them? And that's partially to the epidemic of bad games we have here and there. But also, like, you know, this is how Hollywood works. When you see the trailers for a movie coming out in 6 months, that movie is pretty much done, you know? And movies don't get delayed, right? It's like, oh, you know, Ocean's 13 is coming out on June of... Oh, wait, never mind, we pushed it back to September of 2009. You know? That never happens. Because they finish these things, like, ahead of time. Any delays are absorbed within the thing itself. And then once you see the trailers, the thing is pretty much done. That's what we should do with video games. Finish the game, finish like 95% of it, 6 months before the game comes out, you know? And then start doing your advertising, right? And then everything you advertise, all the features you list, you know they're going to be in there because the game's done. And during that 6 months, you can rest a little. Do some extended beta testing, to be absolutely sure that all the kinks are worked out. Edit little things here and there, and then start working on your next game. I think that'd be very, very productive. And what I would really like to see is if somebody would encourage this. So here's my pitch for, let's say, Nintendo. Because I think Nintendo would be the most likely to do this, even though nobody's really likely to do this just yet. Have a developer rewards program, right? And the basic idea of this, if you follow these two requirements, right? Number one, you're making a game for a Nintendo console of some kind. This is where Nintendo makes its money off of this deal. All right, it doesn't even have to be an exclusive Nintendo console game. Just it has to be, on the Nintendo console. And two, you treat your employees right. You follow those two things, right? Then Nintendo will give you money. They'll just send a check to say, hey, thanks for making a game on our console and being nice to your employees. And you can do all sorts of things of how to figure exactly how to do this. You probably you send the check for each month, dependent on their average performance over the last year. So you can't get all these checks and then just go into super crunch time one month. And you have interviews with employees and find out how much they're getting paid, find out how often they work overtime, they're getting paid overtime, they're getting extra vacation hours, how happy are they with their work. You could find a number of ways to do this. You'd probably end up starting it off like a trial run, right? And then you'd just send people a little letter this is how much we would have paid you if you were doing the developer rewards program. And all this is public knowledge, so people can debate who's supposed to get how much money or how much rewards. You could give them an extra percentage of the profits, right? If currently they make only half the profits off their game or something, make sure now they get 60%. Now they get something like that. That would be really useful, Nintendo, or whoever might do it. A developer rewards program. You pay the developers to be nice to their employees, and that's not just a nice thing to do. That's a smart thing to do, because then everybody will want to, work for you, will want to be making stuff on Nintendo consoles, if Nintendo's the one that does this. And if everyone's doing that, then suddenly you have a lot more support, and a lot more developers brings themselves in. Treating the employees nicely, all right, will, by that scientific paper I quoted, get them to get more work done. And you'll foster more innovation. There's another thing. You give out special little rewards if a game turns out to be particularly innovative, if it turns out to be just particularly good in one way or another. Start paying them that. And hey, you've got the dividends to do it because you're making money off of every Wii console sold, unlike the other two guys, which are losing money in every console sold. You're making an extra $50 in each console. Put that money into the rewards program. And then, people like me, who want to work in the games industry, we can go ahead and do it, because it'll be a friendlier games industry, at least as far as Nintendo is concerned. And it'll be good for everybody. It'll be good for you, because you'll have better games. The better games is good for the consumers. The consumers, well, they're going to buy more of the stuff. That makes you more money, and it's good for the people actually working on the games, because then, they're not suffering. It just makes so much sense. So please, if somebody could do that, that'd be nice. In the meantime, I'm just kicking around video game ideas, wondering how I'm going to do it and make everything without entering the games industry. Because right now the industry is just way too stressful. Thanks for watching. See you later.